Hi guys, and welcome back to Football Fix. Today we're going to be talking about VAR and the problems surrounding it. Today I'm with Thomas, and
Yeah, yeah.
let's get straight into it. So recently it seems to be more a problem than ever, VAR, with some of the decisions that have happened, especially in the sixth week of the Premier League. There seemed to be quite a few, didn't there? There's
Oh,
the
it's
Bowen,
absolutely horrendous.
it was horrendous, wasn't it? There's the Bowen foul against Chelsea, or foul against Chelsea, was the one that stood out to me because Cornet seemed to score a completely fair and justifiable goal, but they went to VAR, and as Bowen shot initially, he followed through. I'll say follow through like this because it wasn't really a follow through, but he tried to jump over Mendy, and it was like his foot kind of touched him a little bit, and then Mendy was rolling around on the floor, and that sort of bought him. It's just like a lifeline for him, really,
Well,
in terms of what he saw on the VAR.
for context, we'll put some the image on the screen now, but it is just horrendous, isn't it? Really, that you can discount a goal like that, especially in today's day and age, where it's common sense almost, and that's my issue with VAR. Um, so I think it answers the question. Obviously, we'll go over some incidents in a bit, but firstly, can VAR be saved?
I'm not sure. It's going to take a lot to bring it back, isn't it? One of the things I do think that should be brought in, I've heard a lot of the pundits that go on Match of the Day talk about this, is if you're going to try and improve it and turn it back round, is to bring ex-footballers into the process and get them involved in the process of the decisions because they actually have a knowledge of the game. The issue can be that some of the people that are working in the VAR booth at Stockley Park is that they don't have as much knowledge of the game as in they've actually played the game, so they don't know what it's like in those situations. It's not relatable. So these players will actually have a knowledge of the game so that they can apply when making these decisions, and it being subjective and subjective.
I think an issue with doing that though is, I mean, you see it on Match of the Day. Like ex-footballers can't agree on decisions. So how is it going to be any different when different players think different things all the time? And also you have it where you'd have to be selective about the players you put in the booth because, for example,
Yeah,
Jermaine Genius and his biasness cannot ever, and I mean ever, do
yeah,
VAR for Tottenham or against Arsenal.
yeah,
And players will have the issue where they will have teams that they just don't like, even if it's not that they played for a rival. They might just have hated playing against, for example, Everton. So
yeah,
they have a natural dislike to them, or a contract may have broken down for whatever reason.
yeah.
There's so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes. I don't think that ex players is the answer, but I don't think how it is can improve because
No.
another example which we can touch upon is back for in the day with the I think it was 2 years into its inception. I think it came in 2018. But David Luiz got sent off for a foul, and I remember this quite heavily on a Wolves player. Now, from that, he touches his knee on his stud, right? In the penalty box. He gets sent off, they get a penalty, right?
Yeah, I remember this.
I,
Yeah,
I don't understand in anyone's shape or form how that is. Now, they changed the rule. Well, they didn't change the rule, but they stated the rule was if David Luiz like actually tried to take down the player or take down the football, then that was that wouldn't have been a red card.
yeah,
Um, in that instant, obviously it went to VAR. They decided that, and that's another thing where it's common sense because if you have an ex-player, they know full well, even though the law technically states it should be, like you use your common sense and think in that situation it's not. Whereas these referees are jobsworths who spend the whole time reading the law book to the letter of the law in some instances and get it wrong, or they just don't use common sense and get it wrong. Like there's never any. It's very rarely that there's a decision they get completely correct. And you have the other issue of if they go to that monitor, as seen the other day in the Arsenal Man United game, it's never ever going to be kept the on-field decision because they doubt themselves. So
yeah,
for example, the Ødegaard foul was soft and got to let to play on. VAR by its sense and by the actual essence of its implementation is meant to be a clear and obvious error.
Exactly.
Now, while in the letter of the law that is a foul,
Yeah.
it isn't a clear and obvious
No.
error that it's a foul. It's not like he's chopped him down fully. It's a shoulder barge that he was a bit early with. But yeah, what other decisions do you think are a bit?
Just before I move on to some dubious decisions, I think that's the referee's decision as well. When it's not clear and obvious, that's when it's the referee's job. It's almost like the referees don't have to make any decisions now because it's all the people at Stockley Park who are, at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones deciding it for him. So I think with ones like that where it's a foul, but it's not a foul that's so bad where it's like, oh my gosh, the referee's just not seen it. The referee saw it, and as we were at the game actually, as he saw the referee, he played advantage. Oh, he didn't play advantage, sorry. He just saw it. He said, that's not a foul. There's not enough in that. So when he does that, that should be, no, VAR doesn't intervene now because the referee's made that decision. I just don't.
I'm looking at it from obviously an Arsenal point of view. And while we do get decisions against us, I think I've got to be fully obviously transparent in things. And I do think we do get a lot of decisions against us. We get a few for us as well. For example, in the build up to United's second goal, I think it was, Sammy Lokonga was lucky not to get sent off.
Yes, yeah.
That being said, you've got to look at the issues at hand, and it's the lack of consistency that's the issue. It wouldn't be as bad if, for example, in the City game we played I think it was the 2-1 defeat we lost last year. Ødegaard had a clear penalty that was just waved away because it wasn't classed as clear and obvious. Now, that was on Edison. It touched his foot. And obviously, my examples are more coming from Arsenal because I remember it more. There was obviously the West Ham one last weekend and things like that. Liverpool with Kane on Robertson as well last year. But these decisions that they seemingly miss are the clear and obvious errors.
Yeah.
Whereas the decisions they go back to seem to be the not clear and obvious ones. Yeah. And the whole phrase "clear and obvious" is subjective to start with. So that's something wrong that they've been in completely. And it should just be, for me anyway, they need to change the whole wording. They need to change the whole implementation. I think there is a place for VAR because obviously beforehand, some of the offside goals that were allowed or disallowed was insane. You need to
really
keep it
good for offside. It's good for offside. And
it's just incompetent, and I don't know, it's just annoying.
Yeah, well, I'll just mention a few of the decisions that stand out in my head. There was the Maguire one at Stamford Bridge when he fell over on the side of the pitch, and as Batshuayi, I think it was running next to him, he was going to get the ball. He extended his legs and went studs up, basically at Batshuayi's chest, and they went to VAR and they didn't give it as a red card.
Oh, another one that's just come to my mind. Arsenal Tottenham last year when Holding got sent off. If you look at the build up to the second yellow, Holding and Son are having a battle on the floor, and very clearly Son fully elbows Holding in the face. Like you can see it clear as day. He looks at him and then does it. It's definite red card, and they completely miss it. Yeah. So it's like things like that how can you miss that? You've got a guy watching it on TV. How?
And another one I'll mention, which we were talking about earlier, is the Sheffield United Aston Villa game, where which way around was it again? Sorry, it was Aston Villa, or was
Aston Villa scored?
Aston Villa scored, or was it?
And Sheffield United went down by a point. I think it was. There was something like that.
No, yeah. Aston Villa scored, and they didn't give the goal. Sorry, Aston Villa scored. They didn't give the goal hang on, no. I think Sheffield United scored, sorry, because I remember Nyland had the ball in his hands. We had the ball behind the post. So obviously, if it's behind the post, it has to be a goal. And they went to VAR, and because this is what frustrates me about VAR at times, just because they didn't have the angle for it, they couldn't say that's a goal. And if you're going to have something that's got to be as precise as VAR, it's got to always have the angle for any position. It's like ridiculous how you can have something so simple as, we don't have this camera angle.
It's like, what game was it in? I think it was Palace. But then, like last season, I think it was last season. Arsenal were 2-0 behind at Palace, right? I think it was Palace just before half time. Martinelli scored a header, and he didn't have an angle to clearly do it. They evaluated the goal just before half time for 5 minutes, and then disallowed it. And I'm sorry, but if it's not clear and obvious, and you don't have the angle for it, the game is meant to be about allowing goals. So, for example, you always give the attacker the benefit of the doubt on the offside calls, or you're meant to anyway. You're meant to give attackers the most opportunity to score. That's just a general rule. Therefore, if it's something that takes 5 minutes over, I remember Liverpool also had a decision a while back that took just as long. Then if it's something that takes that long, you just allow it because the game is meant to be about getting goals. If it's minuscule margins that you cannot tell because of an angle, you've got to allow it.
Yeah, and then I think you also just go with what the referee's decided because he's still got his job to do. He's still got the job to make the decisions in terms of the game. That's what historically it's always been the referee's decision. But so if it takes that long to decide if the referee's right or wrong, go with his decision. He's got to have some sort of role to play in this rather than he'll make the decision. And if he happens to be slightly wrong, they'll go and check it for 10 minutes and then it'll get overturned. It just doesn't make sense in that way for me.
Yeah, and I think a final one before we press on with the rest of the video to mention is obviously that Rodri handball against Everton. That was an absolutely disgraceful decision.
It was it was clearly a handball. Despite obviously I'm a City fan, when I saw that happen, I was so worried that it was. I was certain it was going to be given because
it should have been.
It should have been given. I don't know how they went to VAR as well. It's not like they completely missed it and it didn't go because sometimes it doesn't even go to VAR on some of these decisions. That's another thing that should be mentioned. Sometimes they go, oh, they've thought about it in Stockley Park, and no, they're not even going to look at it. But then this one, it did get looked at on Sky Sports. You're seeing they were checking it. You can see it's touched his right arm. It's in the penalty area. It was so obvious. Didn't give it. I don't
They still got it wrong. I don't know how. I just don't know how.
Yeah.
But from what we just said there, it's very clear there's numerous and there's many, many more decisions that are wrong with VAR.
Yeah.
They clearly are incompetent. They clearly don't know what they're doing. As you stated before, you don't know if it can be fixed. But what's the right course of action? Is it getting rid of it completely? What's your take on it?
I think you still need to keep it for certain things. There are certain cases where you need VAR, such as violent conduct. That's a massive thing because if you see, it still gets it wrong now and then, as you saw in Spurs Chelsea with Kukure's hair being tugged and being pulled to the ground by his own hair, and it wasn't given the red card. I couldn't believe that. But
also, another Arsenal one, it just comes to my mind about violence. Do you remember last year, near the start of the season, and the first time we played Palace, Milivojevic, or whatever his bloody name is, absolutely went through the back and kicked Saka by the back of the leg. Like, fully just took him out for no reason. Like, that's another one. How do you not see these things? I know it's about Arsenal and that, and that's not why I'm bringing it up. I'm bringing it up because it's a bad decision. Like, how do you not see common sense at time, e.g. the Kane tackle on Robertson where he's off the ground, high boot? Like, it's mental.
Yeah. I think the main issue comes with what's clear and obvious and what's not. So I think you still need it for handballs, for example, because that can easily be missed by a referee. I've seen in the Championship, whenever I seem to find myself watching the Championship, it's quite often there's a handball decision where the referee doesn't see it, and then obviously you can't go to VAR, so it's a chance wasted for the team.
You don't always get that right. Still,
they still don't get it right, but I think for the ones that are so obvious, you still need it. As with the offsides, I think offsides, violent conduct, and handballs, they're the three main ones. And then it's just about making it even more clear what's deemed as an obvious error in terms of a foul and what's not. Because there has to be a point where the referee has a say in whether his decision is final or it's just he makes a decision. As I said before, he makes a decision and then he'll get bailed out or they'll just make the wrong decision for him if he's made the right one. It just seems like there's not a win for anyone involved really.
Yeah, that's what I sort of agree. I think that they need to change and tweak VAR. So it's no longer clear and obvious. It is just set situations. So I think they mean to make it so gone are the days of this pitch side monitor rubbish.
Yes.
Get rid of that completely.
Yeah.
I think to fix VAR. I think obviously I think you need to keep it because while it's adding controversy now, there was more controversy before, which obviously we always look at before with rose tinted glasses. It's not like decisions didn't go wrong before. It was implemented because decisions were that bad.
Yeah.
I think we need new referees throughout the English pyramid. This professional refereeing is horrendous. We need to get referees accountable. They need to do interviews after games to explain the decisions rightly or wrongly, where they can say, listen, I'm sorry I decided this. This is why. Or I was wrong. Or even I still go by my decision. I think that he got the ball for even if they back themselves up, at least they're speaking about it. I think we need to have the conversations between VAR and the referee displayed on TV.
That would be good. Like they have in rugby, they do that really well in rugby. How you can hear the decisions between the referee and the people who are monitoring the decisions.
But most importantly, I think it needs a backseat. So I think it only intervenes with red card decisions, about fouls. Yeah. So, for example, if the referee doesn't see a red card decision, you send the referee to the monitor for that decision.
Yeah.
If he then says no, then that's fair enough. Yeah. But that way it sort of eliminates this, or did he foul them in the build-up? You allow the play to go on, and the referee gets more of a say and gains more confidence in his ability because he's not having to second guess everything he does.
Yeah.
I think offsides need to stay. Obviously, goal line technology needs to stay.
Oh yeah.
But I think it should only be implemented with red card decisions, violent conduct, offsides, and goal line technology. I genuinely think the rest of it. Yeah. So, is there a little nudge in the build-up? Is something else occurring? Just bin the rest of it off. It doesn't matter. You don't need the rest of it.
No, the referee. That's what the referee's job is to do. He's meant to say that's a foul, because either way, it's going to be no matter what happens. There's going to be decisions that are made wrongly or correctly, whether you have VAR for the fouls or you have just the referee for the fouls. So I think getting rid of the part where there's someone who's not even at the ground deciding it for the referee, who is actually on the pitch, I think getting rid of that is only a good thing in terms of the fouls part of it.
And all that makes, I know it sounds stupid, but all that gives a bit more confidence to the referee. Because if you take out the second guessing side of it, then he will have to use his own ability. Yeah. And if a referee isn't good enough, which has been seen time after time, whether it be David, what's his name? The bold chap, can't remember his name.
I can't remember his name.
You know what I mean?
Taylor. There's Anthony Taylor.
No, the other one, the Spurs fan. Oh, it's escaping me.
There's so many. There's David Koo. There's
David
Martin Atkinson. There's so many of them. The fact that we can name them I can name them because of when they get mentioned for doing bad decisions. That's the thing with all these.
Yeah, I fully agree. But the fact that it's just not the one, is it? VAR don't work. The referees aren't confident enough within themselves, and it's just not the one. I don't understand what they're just not confident and they're not good enough. The fact that it's always an old man's club. Every referee is an old white British bloke. Mike Dean, that's what I was thinking of before.
Mike Dean, yeah.
They're all incompetent. Martin Atkinson or whatever. All of them. There isn't a good. The best refereeing I've seen this season is the new young lot that they've taken on Sunday.
Yeah, it's when I don't know their name, they're really good, but I don't notice them. So when they're starting to bring in more people for the linesmen and fourth officials, but it's still the aging referees who've been doing it for a long time. They're falling behind in this new VAR era, and they're just not cut out for it at this point. So they need to bring in new referees as well as changing VAR. The referees are a big part of it as well.
Also, can I just point out
young ones in
how there is no referees from London, but there's 20 from Manchester or something. How is that even a thing?
I know.
London's so big. It's impossible. That's not just a coincidence. And then the fact they allow who is it from Salford to referee Manchester United games? That's normal.
Anthony Taylor's from. He says he supports Altrincham, but
It's a lot of. I'm not being funny, right? I'm obviously a massive Arsenal fan. If I was refereeing, I'm not gonna. I'd just claim I'd support Weymouth Town because then I can just go and get a free pass. What play like refereeing my team?
Yeah,
Like it means jack all.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's that. So I think they need to make it more black and white, definitely, and the decisions need to change on what VAR can intervene on.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think we've covered it all well because we've got the main thing is to highlight those big decisions that they've got wrong over the past seasons, the ones that are so obvious that it's unbelievable that didn't get given or should have been given, and just what the problems are other than VAR because the referees as well. That's part of the problem too because then some of their decisions that they make wrongly and then VAR miss. That's another thing. It works on so many levels that when it's not only the referees missing decision, then VAR not looking at it, but the referee sees the decision and then overturns it. It works. It's wrong on every level. So that's why it needs to be changed in our opinion.
It's undermining the competition as well.
Yeah.
Because different teams are treated differently and different situations are treated differently. So it means that not every team competes on an equal basis. And I'm not saying there's bias for teams because there isn't, other than when United got like 30 penalties in a season. But like, if you can't have equal rules and equal footing and consistency on each game, then naturally other teams get different decisions. And then that naturally would bring into question the quality of the league and also the competitiveness of the league because it has to be as equal footing as possible. And that's just a big issue across the English pyramid, I think. But we're both in agreement then that VAR doesn't need removing completely. We both think it needs a lot of work, though.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, that's what Football Fix think about the VAR situation. Let us know in the comments what you think as well. And hopefully you have enjoyed this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe. That's all from me. Is that all you need to say?
Yeah, and don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss any of our videos. We hope you enjoyed today's video, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Goodbye.